Penthouse from GoodTenants. My name is Esther, and if you're a property manager in Africa, this podcast is definitely for you. This conversation is for you. Let's talk about property management solutions. Kunle, welcome to the Penthouse.
Thank you.
Let's.
Hope you pay me for this conversation.
No, we will not pay you. Okay, here's why we will not pay you. You're bringing solutions in Africa that is innovative, that is groundbreaking, and you're already getting paid. So, yes, it will sell itself.
Okay.
But let's get into the conversation. I'd like to ask, why property management? There are lots of sectors in Africa that need help. There are lots of innovative solutions that are needed in various parts. But why did you handpick property management?
Yeah. Interesting question. I think if you step back to 2020, the pandemic and all of that, people, and not just myself, but people just realized how important the home was. And the world is never going back to how it was then anymore. There's a lot of people working remotely from home. There's hybrid, people going some days, spend some days in the office and some days at home. But then life has just changed completely.
Mm-hmm.
But I think going back to the point, what we realized then was how important the home was to our productivity. You didn't have to worry about some things. Your plumbing was bad today. It will affect your working from home. If there was no power. So generally people were looking for bigger spaces because they just realized that they spend a lot of time at home. People started to think about the quality of the house and the quality of the facilities. And even the quality of the experience living in those apartments, because it affected everything about their lives. And that's when, we figured at that point that if we built a solution for this industry that helped to improve the experience for tenants, then we will be helping to improve the productivity for the tenants. But then if you think about it one step further, we're also potentially improving productivity for landlords. And in this case, it means that if their apartments were run in the best possible way, the return on investment will be higher. So they will spend less potentially on things like maintenance and all of that. And you fix something once and it works the first time versus having to do it 3 times, which is what a lot of landlords complain about. So a solution that does that is important to them and improves even the productivity or return on investment for landlords. And if we do this again, it means that we can make the work of property managers easier, right? So we can basically create value for every single person in this whole ecosystem of residential real estate: the tenants, the landlords, and the property managers. And again, what that comes to again is the point about increased productivity for everyone. Spend more time building, or spend more time doing stuff that impacts your life. Spend more time with your family, spend more time improving your career, spend more time earning money rather than running around these little things around your home that affect your life.
Okay, I like the fact that you've mentioned different stakeholders in this chain, in this ecosystem: the tenants, the property managers, the landlords. Let's put some attention on the property managers. Yeah, so how does I understand that if I have to work from home in 2020, I want a quiet space, a comfortable space and all of that. But for the property manager, how exactly is this innovative solution helping their life, their work? How is it making life easy?
I'll give you a couple of examples just from my experience interacting with property managers, but also from my experience working as a property manager in the past. Is typical example: a property manager is probably managing say 5 to 10 properties at the same time. Example. What that means is that it's managing on the average about 40 to 100 tenants at the same time, right? Because there are multiple tenants in a property. And it means that it's getting communication from different people every day. And for each tenant you're managing, you're also managing the landlord, and then you're managing your bosses at work, and you're managing vendors who are going to fix things. So just imagine the barrage of correspondence that you're dealing with every day, and they're usually on WhatsApp or email, different channels. It's very easy, and property managers will say this, but also tenants will connect to this. It's very easy for a property manager to forget something that is important, that is pending.
It's almost always the case. So when you say very easy, I mean, I have property managers, at least I've worked with one. I've had a property manager who asked me to keep reminding him. I feel like I have a life too. So how does this solve it?
So this inefficiency is because, and it's not, I mean, there's not been a tool that helps property managers organize, for example, one of the features we have on GoodTenants, organize all their tasks together so that they can keep track. And I mean, you can use, there are many tools you can use that are not property management tools. But our GoodTenants were thinking, why don't you build something that exactly works for this industry, right? That's customized for this industry so that you don't miss out on things. You can improve the quality of experience of tenants, and that means you're improving the quality of your service to tenants and landlords, by using tools. But that's one example. The other things I've heard many times, and in this case from CEOs or senior leaders in property management companies, is that because they have so many transactions going on at the same time, it's very hard to track what has been paid for, what invoice has gone out, why what invoice is delaying. Sometimes they do a job and they don't get paid. And then sometimes you're managing several properties. The profit you're making from maybe 30% of the properties is covering for the losses on 70%. And at the end of the day, maybe you come out and say we made a profit. What you don't realize sometimes is that you are the real work you're doing is
a huge loss. Yeah.
But you're actually losing money on this 70%. But there's no way to track that if you're not doing regular tracking of every expense, every income on every property. And it takes so much time for them to do that manually. They take days. I've spent time in meetings with them, and once you're tracking, it takes like days for them to come up with reports. It also affects how quickly they can present reports to their landlords because they are doing all this back and forth, with reconciliation. And so one of the tools we build on GoodTenants, for example, is a tool that allows users with a click of a button. As long as all your transactions pass through this tool, with a click of a button, you can generate all your reports, for your properties, per property, even per unit. And so what this does for a property management company is that they can spend more time finding business, spend more time delighting their customers, and less time doing this kind of, routine activities that don't necessarily add more business.
I think some African tenants will agree with, anything that would help property managers make them feel happy. But I know you shared your 2020 story. Let's talk about how you started, because sometimes you know the problem, you know the solutions, but how did you start?
So, I mean, when we started thinking about it in 2020, Mesh, my co-founder, and myself, basically went on the streets, and we had one other friend working with us then. And so while we wanted to build a solution to improve the industry, we didn't just want to go in as technology people or as people who had innovative ideas. We wanted to make sure that we understood
the actual
problems in the industry, and not just the problems, but the reason for those problems. Because as someone who is watching from the outside, it's very easy to say, for example, if I contextualize this problem now, the roads are bad in Nigeria, they don't work. But there's a reason why that's not working, and you might not necessarily know that by just driving on the roads every day.
Yeah.
Right? So we wanted to really understand why the challenges were there, beyond just understanding challenges. And so what that meant was we had to go into industry. So we spent 3 years doing everything that property managers and agents and landlords do.
Like you were actually talking to vendors?
We didn't just talk to them.
Okay.
We did renting for tenants. We got tenants into apartments.
Okay.
We helped landlords manage apartments. We did renovations. We got involved in sale processes. So we basically did everything that a property management company will do.
Okay.
And for 3 years, we were learning why is this not working? What can be done better? Why are people? I mean, we ask questions like, why is caution fee 10%? How can you help a landlord prevent losses because of bad tenants' behavior? How can you help a tenant get ready to pay his rent at the right time? How can you help a tenant become a better tenant? Why is there so many opportunities for people to do the wrong things and get away with it? Why is there no incentive for people to do the right thing? Not just property managers, tenants, or landlords, everybody.
Everybody.
So we spend a lot of time analyzing back to back, all these things.
I've had like 5 topics from you. I think that we're going to schedule conversations to handle each of them.
Absolutely. And just day by day, in those 3 years, we kept documenting our work, building technology along the way. And so we got to a point where we said, okay, now we think we figured out a lot, and we know we're still going to learn, but we got to a point where we figured out a lot, and we said, okay, let's go and talk to more property managers. So we started to talk to people who were not in our experience of learning, but who were senior property managers in their own businesses. So we said, hey, come, look at this thing we're doing. We spent 3 years on this journey. What do you think? And a lot of times what we built resonated with them because they're like, oh, wow, people have come to us with stuff before. But this time you understand the local issues. And of course, that was because we spent time, right, in the industry. And then, of course, they said, oh, by the way, we think we want this additional feature. We think you should add this. And that's sort of how we got to this point.
Okay, I'll link the next question with, your conversations with heads of businesses, heads of practice, CEOs of property management companies. The current challenges you discovered, can you highlight, if not all, some of them and the ones that property managers you perceive or they're still dealing with till date?
Yeah, you mentioned a few already. Reconciliation issues are very hard. Tracking profitability is very hard. I think I mentioned something else earlier, but I'll just say that they're majorly around 3 things. Number 1 is efficiency in terms of operations and cost. You want to make sure that as a businessman, whether property manager, you want to make sure that your input is getting the best possible output. So if you have 20 employees, are they giving the best possible results to you? But also, are you spending more money than you should spend on making sure that your tenants and landlords are happy? Can you reduce those costs? If there's a way to do that, this kind of tool helps you point out. But that's one thing and particularly because of the removal of subsidies or partial removal of subsidies, and also in Nigeria in this case, and also the challenge with the dollar,
the exchange rate,
and this probably also affects companies in Kenya, for example, because while we have subsidies in Nigeria and Kenya, when I talk to property management companies or CEOs there, they struggle with their currencies also being affected, right? It means that you have to be very careful with your costs, number 1. Because your margins are closing up. It also means that you have to start to look for new business. So how can you ensure that you're growing you're finding new business? That involves thinking about providing property management solutions for younger landlords. Because again, a lot of property management companies have been there for 20, 30, 40 years. They're used to doing things a certain way. But I think they're beginning to see that, hey, there's this new crop of landlords and we need to adapt our business. And I believe that over the next 10 years, just by the way, there's going to be a lot of transfer of wealth and properties to younger people from older people. And property management companies need to be ready for that. But I've seen CEOs, say, oh, we need to think about that. So that's majorly profitability, of course, new business. And maybe the final thing would just be, again, more revenue. We're a property management business.
Very important.
We do property management, but there are other things we can do to make our tenants happy. And for us, we think that there are many things that property managers can do without necessarily adding new employees, but adding new employees or adding new processes. There are many services and products they can offer directly or indirectly to their tenants, and our solution allows them to do that. So, yeah, I think again for property management businesses, revenue, cost reduction, adapting to the future. Those are the top things I think on their minds.
And I know you've mentioned some solutions. I know that we can't exhaust all of them in one conversation, but I'd like to ask you, as someone who's worked in this space for a period of time, what good tenant solutions did you enjoy the most? What innovative, resources did you enjoy the most? I know it's hard to pick, but just take your time.
Hard to pick.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll focus on one that I think I'll encourage more people to jump on.
Okay.
Because I mean, we have tools like, reconciliation. We have tools like tenant verification, and we have tools like documentation management, which I find people are excited about because you can just send out you can create documents in minutes and send it out. So it's like templates on the tool. You just need to type in name, maybe some numbers, amounts, and it creates an offer letter with your letterhead automatically, and it stores it in your database, but also stores it on your local server, so you can always refer to it. Those are things, but the one I highlight is what we call the tenant bureau. So, in Nigeria today, or in most parts of the world, if you take a loan in a bank and you don't manage the loan well, you default in the way you manage the loan. If you go to a different bank to take a loan, they can see your behavior, right? This wasn't there before. A couple of years ago, you could take multiple loans in multiple banks and manage them poorly.
Anyhow, okay.
So we have a tool that we built on GoodTenants, which is the tenant rating tool. And property manager can rate the quality tenant's behavior. There are a couple of questions that they answer twice a year. Of course, there's potential. I mean, that's a different story because can property manager rate somebody wrongly? We've created a system for tenants to say, "Oh, this really happened." But the basic idea is you can rate tenants, and so it means that when they decide to move to a new property in the future, maybe with a different property management company, or they are coming into your own property management company, right, renting from you, you can find, history of behavior. What this does is that it increases the likelihood that tenants behave well. It makes your job as a property manager easier because you don't have to settle less tenant-related or bad tenant behavior issues. It helps the landlords become more comfortable because landlords know that their property is in good shape. But it helps everybody.
Okay.
Tenants. And I'll tell you a quick story here. I was talking to the property manager 2 years ago, and he told me about an apartment that was 3.8 million in rent, but they wanted to start charging 4.3 million.
3.8 million
naira, right?
But
they wanted to start charging 4.3 million, and I asked him why. His answer was, well, because they're seeing damages, they now want to put in the cost of potential damages into the rent cost, right? So that they can cover for those damages rented and blood. Because the caution fee was not enough to cover for it. Now, what that means is that for bad tenants, it's fair. But in Nigeria and in the world, we've seen that there are actually many, many more good tenants. A few bad tenants spoil it for everybody. So imagine that rent prices are now going up, affecting people who actually take care of the apartments normally well. Those rent prices are going up and it's affecting not just bad tenants, but affecting good tenants. So when you create a system where there's consequence of bad behavior, or there's reward for good behavior, most people actually benefit from it. So it's not just, we're not creating a tool that makes it easy for landlords. No. Tenants now, you can now bring down the cost, of renting because, if you notice, there are many bad apartments around where you live, where people live, because they've been badly damaged. The more older properties you have that are in good shape, the lower the average cost of rent. Really? Right, yeah. Because generally, new apartments are more expensive. Older apartments are usually cheaper. Expensive, but a lot of people cannot live in those older apartments because they're old, not just because they're old. If you live abroad in UK or US, the house I lived last time was maybe about, when I checked, it was maybe about 60 years old. But I couldn't tell. It was probably... you couldn't tell because maintenance is what keeps it going. So those costs, supply will keep going up because you're adding new properties. Of course, the ecosystem is adding new properties. The other properties are still there. What we've been doing the last couple of years is that we're adding new properties. The other properties are deteriorating. So the supply is not necessarily adding. It's not necessarily increasing. It's just replacing what is lost. Right? So that's why you have a lot of abandoned properties. Right? So we need to make sure that supply is not replacing, it's adding up. It means that we have to keep the ones that are currently available running. And as long as supply keeps increasing and demand, that equilibrium is possible. But beyond that, the price doesn't go haywire. There's about supply and demand, but also about cost of building. If you're building today, it's more expensive than if you're building 10 years ago. So just to keep the average cost of renting at a certain rate. You want to make sure that quality housing is not always because of new housing. Old houses can still be kept in a good shape, and it benefits everybody if we do that. And this tool, and we are being a good tenant, definitely helps make that happen.
Before I move to the last question, which is how property managers can access these solutions, I heard you mention tenant verification. I mean, last time I had to get a property, I was just asked for my name, just where do you work? I don't know if they went there to ask if I work there, just give us someone who can stand in as, what's the word now? Is it a reference or something? Yeah, but I don't know if anyone checked. I mean, I'm a honest person. I don't know about others, but I just answered the form. I just filled the form. I didn't see any part of that form that verifies that, this is what I do for a living. I could just be anyone who filled the form, So how does it work for GoodTenants?
Yeah, I mean, one of the by the way, is hard work. But one of the reasons why we build the tenant bureau system is that in the future it can be a lot easier, because now you can track past behavior in other apartments where they've stayed. So the more people, and I'm saying this publicly, the more property management companies jump on this tenant bureau solution and free to use, the more records or data we can have of people's behavior in the past, and if people behave well, you can track and say, oh, they behave well, they behave badly. You can decide to rent still to them, but you can decide, oh, my caution fees have to be higher because this person might be better. But that's just a part of tenant verification, right? That as we collect more data, it improves. So more people need to use it so that, that database is available for more people to get on. But the way tenant verification is done today is that we verify, depending on what the company requirements are. Some companies don't verify some things. But at the minimum, I think you should verify if people say that they work somewhere, that they work there.
Okay.
I've rented an apartment before where an agent, asked where I worked, put it down, and then went and tell the landlord that I actually worked there without verifying. Again, if we talk about property management, and you're a landlord and you're not using a property management company, you're just using an agent, I think that you're probably punishing yourself. You are losing more money than you think. Because while you're avoiding paying that property manager 5%, or if it's a great one, avoiding paying 10%, what you are doing is you are potentially, bringing your losses into the future. And I'll explain why. If you bring in a bad tenant, there's potential that they're going to not pay you their next rent, there's potential to damage your property. Get a tenant, verify where it works, verify. Some property management companies want to verify income, so verify, if they actually earn what they earn. Not everybody requires that though. And then we verify their past history, which is how we do this, right? And why tenant bureau is there. But right now, what we do is that if they're not on the bureau, we try to find the landlords that they've lived with and actually confirm, their behavior. I'll tell you what technology even allows us to do today, even though we're still being database. An example is that we verified for a company, a tenant, and the tenant, the prospective tenant, put his wife's phone number as a landlord. So he put a different name.
As the previous landlord.
Yes, he put a different name. But the phone number was his wife's phone number. With technology, we would track that it was wife's phone number.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so we just said, hey, you know what? This is your tenant verification report to the company. These are the things we found out. And then you can decide to do what they want to do. So yes, there are some things you can do manually, but there's things that technology helps track. Like there's no way you could have known it was his wife's phone number.
Yeah.
And the property manager could have just called and said, oh, what do you think? And she would have said, oh, he's a very good tenant. And they will have also reported them. And then, of course, when there are problems in the future, you lose money. The property manager gets you a lot of problems because you now have to go back and forth, fight them, go leave my property, don't leave my property. The landlord potentially loses money. And it's just like problematic for everyone.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. But first, it's such a relief to know that actually happens in Africa, that we can verify tenants. My last question, how can property managers access the solutions? When we hear innovative tools, we want it to just be as easy as ordering a ride. I don't want stress. So how can they access this?
First of all, the tool is very easy to use. When you get on it, it's very easy to use because, again, as I said, we've spent time in this industry. We're like the primary users, but as I mentioned in my story, we also now went out to property managers and said, look at this tool, use it. What do you think about it? And they thought it was very easy for them. And they thought it actually solved the problems that they faced, right? So don't worry, it's easy to use. But to get on it, you just go to GoodTenants.io, www.goodtenants.io, and just sign up. and we will assign somebody on our team to support you through the process. So we don't just give it to you to sign up. Somebody comes in physically to your office. Our onboarding process might take 2 or 3 weeks because somebody's going to be on site supporting you through that process to ensure that all the things you need, and then we have videos also of all the features, so you can go back and watch the videos, the how to. But at least when you start, there's somebody supporting you to onboard you, throughout the process so that you can get on board easily.
I think it's been such a wonderful conversation. Even though, sometimes in Africa you think some things are unbelievable, but it's just such a relief to know that if I'm a tenant, I have access to, getting properties in an easy way. If I'm a property manager, life is easy.
You can solve your problems easily. If you're a landlord, you can ensure your return on investment is safe. And again, we keep talking about technology going into industries. It's not new anymore. People are getting used to it. Example I always give is taxes. 10 years ago, actually exactly 10 years ago, the experience was very different. Now, these ride-hailing companies have come in and they've just disrupted, and it's now easier for you to get a taxi. It's cheaper, the experience is better. Everybody is behaving right. The tenant, the driver has to behave right because he can be rated by a driver. The driver is behaving right because he can be rated by a tenant and he doesn't want to lose his income. So that ecosystem has been built to incentivize good behavior and to reduce bad behavior. And that's what we can do with the ecosystem in property management too. And definitely possible. It took them 10 years. I think it can take us a shorter period for us to get really good experience for everybody in the ecosystem in property and facility management.
Thank you so much. I mean, if we continue, we could go on and on, but we'll come back to have conversations about each feature, topic, or tools, every solution that we can put out there for property managers. Once again, thank you for joining us today.
Let's see.